In 2014, on Cyber Monday alone, $2.68 billion in sales were made online. When we trade an asset or a thing for money, that's called a financial transaction. And when it happens over an electronic network like the internet, that's called e-commerce. Today, millions of things are sold online every minute. But how did we get here? What was the first thing sold on the internet? According to Pizza Hut, the first thing ever purchased on the internet was a large pepperoni pizza with mushrooms and extra cheese in 1994. So, I tried to see if that was true.
Thanks for calling Pizza Hut. Oh, so you didn't mean just Pizza Hut in general. You meant literally the first thing ever online. First purchase online
was from Pizza Hut, that's correct.
That is kind of cool if that's true.
According to the New York Times, while the first purchase online did happen in 1994, it didn't have anything to do with pizza or with Pizza Hut. To get to the beginning of the story, to the birth of e-commerce, we have to go back before the World Wide Web and before the internet. We have to go back to the ARPANET. When the ARPANET was started in 1969, it was started as a tool to help universities share information, ideas, and resources in a way that nobody had ever seen before. So the students had this amazing technology that gave them access to some of the smartest minds in the nation almost instantly. So what do you do with this kind of power? Well, if you're a student at Stanford, you buy pot. It turns out students from Stanford bought some marijuana from students at MIT somewhere between 1971 and 1972. But that can't be the first online sale. It was illegal, there was no actual funds exchanged, and it looks a lot more like an instant messaging conversation than the way we buy online today. So it wasn't that. But what about Jane Snowball? In May of 1984, a 72-year-old British grandmother named Jane Snowball bought margarine, eggs, and cornflakes using an invention called the videotex. The videotex was basically a TV that allowed you to connect your phone line to the phone line of your local stores to place an order. Jane's groceries were then delivered to her door where she paid for them in cash. That's a pretty wild way for a grandma to buy groceries in 1984. But the videotex didn't break the mainstream. The technology just wasn't there yet. And that wouldn't change until 1994, 3 years after the internet is started by Tim Berners-Lee. But the key pioneer wasn't Pizza Hut, it was this guy.
Hi, Dan Kahn. Is that okay?
Who ran what was probably one of the earliest web startups.
So NetMarket was an internet startup that I was doing with 3 friends. When we launched, we were really one of the very first websites. The web was incredibly new.
And of course, he remembers the moment on August 11th, 1994, when his friend bought a Sting CD in what was the first secure online transaction.
We got tons of reactions of just saying, you're doomed, this will never work, AOL is going to own e-commerce. And then, lots of things like it's just way too hard to set up internet access. And just to be crystal clear, it was really hard to set up internet access at the time. So they weren't wrong, but it just required a tiny bit of imagination to say, hey, this stuff could get easier over time.
Which was actually a pretty big deal, because until then, there was no real safe way to transmit your credit card data online. Dan and NetMarket opened the floodgates for what would become a billion-dollar industry, taking us from buying a simple CD to buying almost anything online. And that is how we got here.